Alright, here we are. Another mission. What we're going to be doing here, I'm going to zoom out a bit, is take off from Mozdok Airport, fly over to Waypoint 2. We're going to meet up with some bombers and some escorts, head over to Waypoint 3, then all the way down south to Waypoint 4. At this point, we will be attacking this airport. My plane specifically will not be actually attacking the airport, but we're going to be taking out early warning radars and surface-to-air missile defenses placed around the airport so the bombers can go in and do their job. After that's all done, we loop around, go all the way back, and land safely at our airport. Alright, so let's start. Let's turn off the labels here. In my plane. So I've turned on the electrics. You can see stuff booting up. So my radar warning receiver's beeping. That's because we're at an airport and there's lots of radars. That makes sense. I'm asking for permission to start up.
Ветер у земли 270, скорость 7 метров в секунду.
So that's kind of annoying, this beeping. Especially when there's... Oh, that's some more beeping. That's like my general warning lamp. It's lit up because this angle of attack thing is over its limit. I don't know why. I think that's part of starting up. It's nothing to worry... It shut itself off. It's nothing to worry about, though.
99.
So I got permission to start up. So the left and right engine lamps are on. When they're lit, that means they're starting. You can see the RPMs cycling up. Sweet. This thing, I didn't turn it off, but I turned it into filter mode, which means it will stop paying attention to what's going on. And it will only alert me if there's a new lock on or something. I just want that turned off because I don't want it constantly beeping in my ear in a location where there's actually no real threats. So number 21 is my wingman. He'll be assisting me with this mission. And we're starting a taxi. Just zoom out a bit, or oh no, that's zooming in. Now we'll zoom out, take a look at this airport. So I have to go all the way to the end of the runway, or the taxiway rather, and then onto the runway, which is up in the upper middle there. It's my wingman following in behind me. You can see the speed in the upper left-hand corner is saying 80. I'm not actually going 80, it's just that it doesn't show anything below 80 kilometers per hour. So whatever. Off to my right there, those are Su-24 attack aircraft. They will be taking off after us and also participating in this mission. They look pretty badass. They're like two-seat bomber attack aircraft deals. Some guy standing there. Hey, buddy. You have to take it easy when you taxi this thing. Use your brakes and adjust the throttles. It will, if you take a turn too sharp, it will tap the wing into the ground, which is not good. See, I got my little blinky lights on. Not sure what I'm looking at. My wingman's like totally up in my butt. I don't know what's up with that. He's like tailgating me hard. I think I'm trying to get away from him. He's just following me creepily. That's maybe why I'm looking behind my shoulder. So I'm going up to the runway. Preparing for takeoff. I've got a ton of ordnance stuck to the bottom of my plane, so it's super heavy. That will make takeoff a bit of a not so easy. Getting permission to take off. Trying to line myself up. So I'm lowering the flaps for takeoff into the takeoff position, just because we need the extra lift because we're so heavy. So throttling up. Got the brake on. I'm up to 80% throttle. Then we start to budge. I let off the brake, and then I crank it up all the way. You can see how slow we're starting. Because we're so heavy. Around 280, 290, we'll be able to take off. There we go. Look at how majestic that is. Landing gears up. Flaps are going up. And we're on our way. It's the MPW, that's Russian for en route mode. That's the mode I've selected for the heads-up display. We're heading to the first waypoint, 144 kilometers. So this number here, the 5,000 at the top, that's the plotted altitude, so it wants me, that's when they create the waypoints. They set a certain speed and altitude that you should be at. So that's why I'm climbing. Currently it says 800 and it's climbing. That's my radar altitude to the ground. The P is Russian for R, or radar. Underneath the plane there's some sort of a transceiver that beams directly into the ground, so you can get a very exact measurement of your altitude. It only works to about 1,400 meters, I think. Then it switches off to barometric altitude readings, which is a little less accurate. But right now it's still in radar mode. If you bank left or right, since it's a beam going straight down from your plane, the radar altitude will radically change. But if you're going sort of straight and level, it's pretty accurate. So it should switch to barometric anytime soon. There. So I'm climbing about 15 degrees. I'm trying to reach this altitude of 5,000 that it wants me to be at. So since we're dealing with radar sites, potentially we have this thing, which is our this pod in the center line. It's a passive electronic radar detector classification spotter device. It'll pick up radar emitters, it'll classify them for us, and it'll put it on the heads-up display so we can target them. Those big gray missiles on the innermost pylons, those are KH-58s. They are very long range. They can fire up to 70 kilometers away. They're super big. I think they're about 700 kilograms each, so that's like a compact car or something. They're radar homing missiles, so they will take information from that centerline pod and then actively home in on that radar emitter and track it down, load up. The two white missiles on the middle, the one with the pointy head is another radar homing missile, and the one with the blunted sort of window is a laser guided missile. Those gray things are air-to-air missiles, and these big cylinders that are on the very outermost pods, those are, that's an electronic jammer. So the reason we've got laser-guided missiles is because the scenario it mentioned we'll have to deal with some early warning radars that are not lockable using that pod that's on the underneath of the plane. So we have to use like a different means. We won't be able to track it or lock onto it normally, so we'll have to use the laser guided missiles to take those things out. However, the pod is pretty good at detecting and classifying most other radars, so that's what we'll use for the rest of it, or any other threats we might have to deal with. Ideally, we want to use those huge gray missiles from a very far range. There's my wingman. See him. He took off right after me. Hey, buddy. What's up? So the big gray radar homing missiles, those are standoff missiles. They, like I said, the range is 70 kilometers. It's very far. The two white ones are much shorter ranged. I think they're 10 kilometers, 12 kilometers, something to that effect. So you have to get pretty close. See, we're still climbing. We're at 4,200 meters. It wants us to be at 5,000 meters. This is all planned out in the waypoints. Is this stuff important? Yes, because... well, that's the airspeed. It wants me to be at 390. I'm currently way over that, but whatever. But in theory, if you're going to do following the sort of plotted altitude and speed that you're supposed to be at is a good thing. Especially if you have to meet up with other aircraft or do things in a coordinated manner. It's good to follow your instructions. So the waypoint. Here's my this yellow pointy thing. It's saying I'm 94 kilometers from my waypoint. This is basically duplicating this information up here. The yellow thing means I'm heading towards the waypoint. The two solid white lines underneath it indicate that I'm actually on course as well. So I'm heading towards the waypoint, and I'm also on the course that I was assigned. I'm not to the left or the right of it by any degree. it's important to follow your plotted waypoints. I don't think you can see them here, but the first waypoint is like a straight line. Well, actually I'm on the waypoint, so it'd be a straight line where I am from the airport to like here. If I was up here by this lake, for example, and my waypoint was over there, you'd see the yellow arrow with the on that HSI thing would be pointing in this direction, but the two solid white lines would be pointing in this direction. So you'd see them totally misaligned on the that instrument. So that lets you know that you're off course. These other aircrafts, these are the fighters that we're going to meet. These are the bombers. This is an early warning aircraft. Still got my blinky lights on. This looks like this would be Nalchik. Yes, there we are. So off to the side there, that's Nalchik Airport that we're passing to the left of us. Looking good. Nothing suspicious happening there. So you can see I'm in autopilot right now. This is for level flight. Just so you can take it easy, look around, do other stuff. Not have to worry about keeping your altitude or whatever. Although it doesn't work very well, I'm just like, I keep dropping. I don't know. It's like 80s technology. It's not the best. But it does keep you level, and it keeps you more or less stable trim. So my radar warning receiver is still off. I don't want it beeping at me because we're still over our own territory. Nothing to worry about. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to speed things up a bit because this is actually a very long mission. So I'm just going to speed up a bit. I'll just try to get us towards waypoint 2, where we're going to start turning south towards our objective. No threats here, just mountains. Which look kind of threatening, really, but whatever, we're pretty high. They can't hurt us. So I got a radio message joining up. I don't see them, but it's the are they above us? No. It's the other flights that are going to be participating in this. They should be meeting us up. There they are. And that's 2 fighters, the Su-27s, and 3 of these Tu-22 M3s, which are bombers. I'll try to take a look at one of those in a second. There we go. So we hit waypoint 1. It wants us to go to waypoint 2. So you can see this thing has now changed in the direction it wants us to go. So I'm just doing a bank till I get this lined up in my current heading. Which looks like 310 degrees it wants us to go. So here I don't have these, I don't have the yellow arrow inside those two waypoint course arrows. So what I'm doing is I'm going sort of at a perpendicular angle to the course so I can get back onto the course angle. I kind of have to draw it out to describe what I'm talking about, but I just want to be on course and going towards the waypoint. I don't want to be flying in a weird direction that's where I'm not supposed to be. So I'm going to turn around now. I think this replay's bugged. It's not corresponding to the direction I'm going. Very strange. Because this is correct. I am going south, which is like 190. But the replay is saying something totally different. The DCS replays are apparently quite inaccurate. A lot of weird stuff can happen, so bear with me. But this course heading is correct. This is where we're going, which is kind of due south. So what was I going to do? I was going to show the bombers. Yeah, that was... Here's one of them. It's pretty badass looking. Their role is to hit the airport with bombs, hence the name Bomber. Whoa. Doing some maneuvering. See these two Darth Vader looking TIE pilot mofos in there. There's a guy in the back seat. I'm not sure what his job is. For a bomber, it's pretty fast. That was the concept during the Cold War. This thing would be, there's no, well, it's got some external pylons, but the idea was that it'd have a bomb bay. It'd carry a nuclear missile. This thing is going nuts. The idea, yeah, so it'd be carrying a nuclear missile in the bomb bay that it would quickly hit its target in America or whatever. It's like a whole Cold War sort of a weapon. There's one of our escorting jets. Looks cool. Go back to me. So now we're going south. To waypoint 2. So I turned my radar warning receiver back on. You can see it's picking, oh, I turned it back off, but it was picking some, because it was beeping and it was annoying me. But basically the signal it was getting was from our escort aircraft, from the AWACS. Let's actually try to find that guy. This thing. This is way behind us. It's basically a giant radar scanning the sky. It's kind of neat. Where's that guy? Yeah, he's way behind there. That's a good place for him too, so that's logical because they have a big range in what they can pick up, but they also conversely give away their position because they're broadcasting an active radar emission. So they want to be as far away from the action as possible. My plane doesn't even have a radar. So we're 10K from waypoint 2. Nothing threatening here. I'm just a plane. Peacefully flying. It's radio chatter. It's really neat. You can see the graphics, the mountains. Looks nice. See the curvature of the Earth. Pretty sure that's not real. I don't know. Look it up on Wikipedia or something. I've got a mission to fly. So we're 1 kilometer away from the second waypoint. We'll see it switch. You can see that little thing going nuts as it rejiggerates itself to the third waypoint. I just bank to get on course again. Just going sort of south. Once we go over this mountain range, then stuff will be starting to happen. In the briefing, it said we would be encountering threats somewhere along this axis. So I'm sort of in lookout mode at the moment. You can see the end of the mountain range just in front of us. Just beyond that is Kutasi, which is the airfield that's going to be hit. Got my radar warning receiver back on. So you can see it saying there's something behind me to my left, and that would correspond to our friend. This thing does not distinguish between friendly or enemy radars, so this is nothing to worry about. But I have it on anyways, just in case something pops up. See just the end of the mountain range way in the distance. That's where the enemy targets should be. It's my buddy. So 5,000 meters in the air, that's something like 20,000 feet. I'm going kind of slow, 420k. Just trying to take her easy because I don't know what's up ahead. Okay, yeah, so that F that's illuminated, that means that's an early warning radar, and it's to our front. The amber lamps that are illuminated there, those are indicating the primary threat. So it's saying there's something in front of me. I've activated the air-to-ground mode on the HUD. I've got the KH-58s selected because I don't know the range to this thing. It's over this mountain range, that's all I know. If I pause this real quick, because I've played this scenario already, the radar emission that I'm picking up is right there. In this little sort of cleared out thing on top of this hill. How far away is that from us currently? I will check using this handy ruler. Try that again. That's almost 30 nautical miles or so. So the range at which we're going to pick up something is kind of a function of how high up in the air you are, if they're emitting, if they're not emitting. so on and so forth. Visually, from 30 miles of nautical miles, that is away, I could not see anything, but I do pick up their radar signal. So I'm going to try to filter through all the objects in the game to show you what we're picking up exactly. Where y'all at? I think I passed it. Nuggets. That's a bit of a klutzy interface for replays. There we go. So this is the hill I was showing you. From my perspective, it's kind of like a little bump just at the end of the mountain range. This is their early warning radar. They've got some trucks. They've also got a little surface-to-air missile launcher there for defense. So in the briefing, I mentioned that our electronic radar detection pod thing was unable to pick these up, so that's why I have the laser-guided missiles. And I'll go back to my plane and unpause. So you can see me here. I'm trying to lock onto this thing, and it's not working. And that's because, as I just said, we can't lock onto it. It sees it, but it doesn't know what it is, and it won't let me track it or lock onto it. And it keeps flipping in and out of existence. So it's still some distance away. So I turned on this TV thing. My intent here is I'm going to switch to my laser-guided missiles. Although unfortunately they're a much shorter range. They've only got 10 kilometers range. 10, 11. You can see it way in the distance. With my pod thing, I was able to move my cursor to generally where it is, and right now it's ground locked, so it's holding the camera in that position. So no matter how the plane moves, I will still be looking at that thing on the ground. I've just turned on my laser. I've selected my laser-guided missiles. And you can see that arrow dropping down. The solid bars is when I'm in range. Right now I'm quite far away. That's because I'm very high in the air as well. So you can see the radar sight a bit better. It's that bump way ahead of me. There he is, just peacefully radaring. You cannot see my plane yet. It would just be a little blip in the sky somewhere. Although it's a good place for a radar site. It's got some pretty good coverage, I guess. So it's kind of well placed, I suppose. So I'll go back to my plane. So you can see this thing, the KC means it's contour locked, so it's just locked on a position on the ground, although it's right over the radar right now, which is also convenient. The flashing UA means I don't have launch authority, because my weapon is not in range. That arrow has to drop down. Again, this thing only has a 10 kilometer range, and I'm 5 kilometers in the air, so I have to get kind of close to it. You can see the solid bar, that's my wing attitude. Because if you're using this thing, you're not going to be really paying attention to your flight so much, so this kind of helps you out. And the dashed line gives your horizon. So I'm sort of level. I'm not going down or up. The little 10 in the upper left is the cursor size, so that lets you know what size of target you're trying to get into. 10 meters is fine, so we're going to leave it at that. So you can see me starting to dive, and that's because I want to get in range. I don't want to waste time. So you can see it going down, going down, going down. You can see the little bald spot on the top of the hill. I'm opening my air brakes so I don't get going too fast. See the plane shaking. Almost in range. And fire. See me, I'm still diving, still diving. Boom. Much explosion. I'm starting to level out. This is the hill again. You can see the smoldering remains of that. So this thing is now alerted. And it fires a missile. And it hit my wingman, sadly. You can see him eject. Sorry, buddy. Have fun being a POW. Better you than me. So what I did here is I'm just doing a turn 180 basically, so I could take another run. When I played this through, all I was aware of was that there was stuff on this hill. I took out the radar, but I didn't quite know what else was going on there. So I'm just doing a 180. I was using this thing as kind of a reference. You sort of look for landmarks and use them to kind of orient yourself. So look at this thing. This is a heat-seeking missile, so that was stupid of me not to fire flares. I was just lucky that it hit my wingman instead of me. This little SOB still has 3 missiles left. Look at him sitting in there. These little beady looking evil eyes. Hatred in his heart. But main mission accomplished, getting rid of that early warning radar, because that trips up the rest of their defenses. So I'm still making space. The bombers are coming in. And I'm going to loop back around and take another pot shot at what I can see here with another laser guided missile. So being locked on by something, I don't know what. It could be a friendly even, I don't know. So I'm starting to loop around. I was using this slopey hill as a reference to keep my bearings. You can see the bit of smoke in the distance from the first missile hit. All this talk of keeping my bearings, I'm not looking in the right direction, so I'm sort of bobbing around, trying to remember where the thing was. Going to the right a bit, there it is. So I contour lock the camera. That just means it's going to point at that direction in the ground, which is currently nothing. Zoom in. My laser is still turned on. So moving it around. And I'm locking on that guy. And we're in range. Launch. Boom. This guy seeing death raining from the sky has decided to exit. Good plan, dude. So you notice that thing did not fire at me as I was approaching. That's because a heat-seeking missile needs heat, so basically the backside of your plane to track onto it. Or it's a lot more efficient anyways if it can. So I'm looping around again. Firing chaff. I'm being locked on by something, so I know there's radar sites. Let me pause here. I'll try to find the other surface-to-air missile battery. There she is. So here's the airport down here, Kutasi. There's a SAM battery right here. And there's another, like a surface-to-air missile vehicle of some sort that's right here. But this is the SAM battery. Zoom in on them. Whoops. They're basically here to defend the airfield. These are sort of, or I can't remember what they were. They're older model surface-to-air missiles, but they're still dangerous. They're a bit tripped up because the early warning radar has been taken out. I'll unpause. But this is, I'm getting the signal from these radars now. If we go back to my plane, I've turned on, yeah, you can see these little triangles. One of the triangles is actually, yeah, they're all identified. The one that says OCA, that's OSA, that's the truck thing. The other ones, I can't remember what they stand for, but it's the SA3 radars. So to the left, sort of bobbing up and down. I'm selecting the other white missiles, the radar homing ones. You can see they're launching. Not at me though. I'm not locked on. Well, I'm locked on, but they're not launching at me because the missile's going somewhere else. Oops. Away. I'll lock up this guy. Fire. Try to get these other two emitters. I've switched to those big, huge missiles now, the KH-58s. I just want to fire everything and get out of here. It's not my money. One away. Lock onto the last guy. And all missiles gone. There's the first of the barrage to hit. Another one. So I killed both of the radars in that thing. And damaged some of the other launchers, because those are massive amounts of explosives in those missiles. So I fired all my weapons, so I'm just heading home. I picked en route mode on the HUD, and I picked waypoint 7, so I'm just getting out of here. However, you can see this bomber is now coming in to do its mission. I'll try to get to him. Is this the guy? Sorry, this is mildly nauseating. There we go. One of them let off its bombs. Anyways, back to my plane. So that was a bit of a failure. I lost my wingman, which is not good. I did take out the all the radar sites that I could, so that's a good thing. Since they're still bombing. Bomb. There we go. See the destruction they left behind. That replay is very bugged. They can't fly through trees. Looks like he tried to take out a ground vehicle. So at this point, I'm heading home. I'm not staying around for this nonsense. Things are cool. Back to me. So I'm heading to my next waypoint, which is up here. For the sake of speeding this up, I will speed this up. Again, we're going north back over the mountains that we came in. Playing with my heads-up display. I'm in autopilot while I do that. 6,000 meters. So I didn't mention it, but these big pods at the end, the radar jammers, I did turn those on. I forgot to talk about the symbol that I had, but when I have it turned off now. But it's pretty much, I don't know too much about it, but I believe it's a noise jammer, which means it emits all the frequencies, so radars that are trying to lock onto you get a bad return signal and they can't quite pick you out. It's not foolproof, but it does help. It helps you not get locked onto. A little bit, anyways. Depending how close you are to a radar and how powerful it is, it can burn through that and see you anyways, so it's not certainly not foolproof. It's not advisable to leave it on all the time because it makes you easily detectable. It's basically like you're screaming in a radio frequency sense. So you don't want to, you just want to do it when they know you're there. Or you know that they know that you're there. So if you're in stealth mode, turn off your radar jammer. Because everybody can hear you. So this plane does have flare launchers in the back of the tail. I should have been launching those after I did my attack runs. Because a heat-seeking missile, there's no warning that it's tracking you or coming after you. It's just purely visual. So just as a matter of standard protocol, you should fire off flares when you turn around from an unknown target. Because better safe than sorry. I was just randomly lucky there that my wingman got splashed instead of me. Again, I feel bad. Sorry, buddy. Will be missed. I still have my air-to-air missiles. And all my electronics are still on the plane. So those big turbojet engines for room. It's 33K to my next waypoint, so like I said, I will speed this up. Go into warp mode. Majestic mountains. So we hit our last waypoint, and now it's that's Russian for RTB. Return to base. So it's going to vector me to airport 17, which is Mozdok. I can, if I want, I can cycle through the different airports if I want to land at a different one, but I'm not, because this is the one I want to land at. So we're just going to follow the thing, get it lined up with the other thing, and that means you're going in the right direction. You can also get that information off this instrument. I forget what it's called. I never use it. I should, though. And the information is also triplicated on your heads-up display when you're in on-route mode. That circle is, theoretically, if you follow it, will perfectly keep you on course. I've not been using that. I just purely use this thing because I am lazy and don't want to learn these other things. Actually, this is probably the laziest one. Just follow the circle. The circle's in the middle, so it's now it's going to the other side. But if the circle's in the middle, that means you're going in the right direction. The circle's below me, so it's telling me I need to go down, which makes sense because it thinks I should be at 4,600 meters, not 6,200. So if you want to, you can follow the circle on the HUD. It will guide you to your destination. So the RTB is taking me to Mozdok, but it's actually going to take me about 10 kilometers away from Mozdok to around here, at which point it'll tell me to go into landing and direct me back to do my landing, which would be the opposite way that I took off. There's all these symbols on the map. You see these little beacons. They're usually by airports and towns. Sometimes they're just in the middle of nowhere. If you're ever lost, you have little maps and things in the cabin that you can look at, and you can tune in the frequencies to these beacons. Like here's one in the middle of nowhere. So if you're ever lost and you don't know where you are, you can tell your plane to guide you to one of these things. So you can better orient yourself and get to where you're going. It's kind of cool. So I'm just spazzing out, scrolling all over this map. Get back to my plane, slowly descending. I'm sort of at the altitude they want me to be at. I just don't want to do a sudden descent as I'm close to base. I'll speed this up. Back into warp mode. We're going to be passing over Nalchik. Yeah, it's a long game to play this out in real time. It's kind of like flying to Toronto and back. Maybe even a bit further. Oz Dock is somewhere around there. Oh, there it is. That's where we're going to be landing. I will not be buzzing the tower, because that's kind of stupid. Or maybe I'm not a rogue. I don't know. One of those two things. I don't even think there is a tower there. I just see like little lumpy looking buildings. Is that a tower? I guess that's the tower, that thing on the hill. I don't know, maybe that's the tower. Whatever, it will not be buzzed. Let's speed this up. So I'm just getting some distance, and it'll eventually, once I hit my waypoint, my return to base waypoint, that is, it'll tell me to go into landing mode. There it is. Sort of did it prematurely, but whatever. So it's telling me to do almost a 180, which makes sense because the airport is behind me. You can see it way in the distance. It's with my buddy escorting me. Hey, dude. See me looking at where I'm going. It's a pretty lazy turn, so I gotta orient myself back onto the runway somehow. Just gonna overturn to correct, get lined up. Just cutting the throttle, I'm down to like 50%, almost. That little arrow under your speed tells me that I'm sort of maintaining speed. If it's to the left, that means I'm slowing down, which I'm currently slowing down. If it's overweight to the right, that means you're speeding up. So right now I'm slowing down. And that's my ILS thing turned on. I'm not going to use that really. Turning to get myself in the right, lined up to the runway. So put my flaps down just to help keep lift while you're going at a slow speed. A lot lighter now, so I don't need the flaps all the way down. There should be no problem. I probably don't need the flaps at all, honestly. The gears come down. If you're below 400 kilometers an hour, you can put your gear down. Got my landing lights blinking. touchdown. I cut the throttle. Brake, brake, brake. Stop the drag chute so we can slow down. See, it's pulling the aircraft backwards almost. That's that. A mildly successful mission. I'll just turn off the recording. If I was a better video editor, I could just edit this out afterwards, but you'll just have to bear with me as I manually stop the recording.